Now, have you ever sat on your couch watching a race on TV and thought to yourself, hey, I could do that? I mean, how hard could it be?
Well, we thought we'd put the scenario to a test and sign up Sanjeev here to take part in a real race. So we got him a tutor and filmed the whole thing, and we're going to be tracking his progress right here on the show. So let's bring you the first installment of many, or until he chickens out, as Sanjeev embarks on a journey to become Malaysia's answer to Lewis Hamilton. Ha!
Can an ordinary guy like me be transformed into a competitive race driver? Well, that's what we're going to find out here at the Sepang International Circuit. This is where we are. Got a competitive race car here, and to help me through the process, I've got one of the best drivers in Malaysia, Alex Yoong. Alex, where do we start this process?
Well, we're going to have to go through the theory first, concentrate on about driving lines, how you drive a car around a racetrack, what's the fastest way around the racetrack, talk about braking, accelerating, changing gear. This is a race car, but it's also a road car, so it doesn't have as much grip as a single-seater, but it's certainly quick enough. But at the end of the day, the best thing to do is just jump in the car and get going.
And it begins here, my journey towards becoming a bona fide race driver.
Got the helmet on, that's step one. Microphone. It gets pretty loud in the car. Brake!
Fully equipped, we set off to master the Sepang circuit. I got my chance to show Alex just what I could do. Although he didn't say much, I could tell he was impressed.
Started okay. When I get started slipping and sliding and spinning just too many times. Right now I think Alex is gonna take me around and show me the ideal racing line, where I should be braking, where I should be doing things.
Now sitting shotgun while a pro zips around the circuit really put things in perspective. I was slow, but come on, I don't do this for a living. Well, at least I know now what I'm supposed to be doing. So there was something to work towards.
Any questions? Any questions? How do I go faster?
And we set off for a few more laps of Alex coaching me around the circuit, all the time barking orders in my helmet. Brake! Downshift! Accelerate! Turn in! Too much! Downshift! Floor! 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 Boy! What a reality check!
It's really like the first day at school and the slowest, dumbest kid in the class.
Well, at least my teacher wasn't as harsh.
You're like in kindergarten at the moment, and we've got to try and get you up to high school levels in just a couple of test sessions. But you did a good job, you learned quite quickly, and every time you went out you progressed. At the end of the sub-run day, you're about 6 seconds a lap slower than what I was doing, which is really not that bad at all, you know. It's a long lap, and 6 seconds isn't that much. Just need to refine it a bit more. The more laps you do, the more practice you get, the more it becomes second nature. And once it becomes second nature, then it gets a lot easier and you're relaxing more and you're faster and faster.
So there's still hope. Next on my quest to becoming a real race driver, I head to the team's factory where I meet my very own race car.
Sanjeev here has no trouble jumping headfirst into the world of racing and is actually on a quest to become a competitive race driver.
Now, it's a pretty serious project, and last week we showed you my first lesson with Alex Yoong behind the wheel of a race car. On this week's installment, I'm about to meet the new love of my life. Now I hear all good race drivers make a trip to the factory, so I've decided to show up here at the Proton Motorsport Centre where the RF3 team is putting together my race car. And to help me understand what exactly I'm looking at, I've got Tunku to help explain this too. So, how does this actually happen? How does a race car get put together?
Well, first of all, we design it on paper, and then we go down to building the actual shell. So the first criteria is basically what you see here. this is a shell which is currently being built. The roll cage and the chassis has been designed on cat tube and then replicated onto the actual shell. The cars have been lightened in terms of the body stiffness. Everything has been reduced. What you see is actually a shell which looks like the production car, but it's actually not the production car anymore. You can see that the roll cage has been welded in. What the boys are doing now, they are fitting on all the auxiliaries which is needed, means the steering shaft, the brake pedal, and what there is parts which is not necessary has been deleted. So finally it would look something like this, which is closer to the actual race car which you'll be racing.
Now, how long does it take to actually put a race car together?
The whole build process would take normally between 5 to 6 weeks. What we're trying to achieve here is something close to 4 to 5 weeks, so 1 week short of the actual build process.
Okay. One small question, since I'm going to be racing one of these cars, how many spare parts do you make?
We would normally carry 1 car worth of spare parts for the race. So anything can happen within the races, and we do not want to be short of parts that would reduce our chances of actually completing the actual race.
So what you're saying to me is there is a margin of error?
Definitely. I mean, you can be the best driver in the world, and you know, you can still fall into trouble.
So I've done the test laps, met the race car. Next on engine block, it's time for me to gear up and get racing. We've had some pretty amazing adventures here on the show, from cruising around in antiques to neckbreak joyrides around the circuit. But nothing compares to the adventure I embarked upon when Alex Yoong asked me to race for his team. Why? I'm not exactly sure, but what I do know is that we're going to bring you this adventure over the next couple of weeks in a brand new segment we call So, You Think You Can Drive? It's about 7 a.m. on a Saturday morning, and this is the beginning of my first full weekend as a professional race driver. Wish me luck.
I knew Sanjeev from before, and I know he's been trying to do a bit of driving, trying to steal my seat and stuff. So I thought it was a perfect opportunity for Sanjeev to come and, you know, try and see what it really is about to become a professional race car driver. So he was keen, he was up for it, and before you know it, he's in the car.
Of course, when Alex invited me to race for his team, I was not going to say no. Plus, I wanted to redeem myself after my last outing in a race car, which, if you remember, didn't go so well. Unfortunately, in my very first test session, even before the event, my reputation preceded me after this minor incident.
Push a bit more, you're going to go a couple more laps. Flat to 5. Okay, try and be flat, you should be able to be flat. The line is correct, try turning a bit later, a bit more aggressively.
So you heard him, right? He said be aggressive, and I did push hard, but maybe just a bit too much. Becoming a racing driver isn't easy. You've always got to be pushing your car to the limit, and sometimes you overstep the limit. Kind of like I did today with this guy in the practice session. Slammed into the tire barriers. Alex, just when I thought I was getting the hang of things were feeling good, I was feeling a lot more confident, this happened.
Yeah, it's part of a learning process, you know, Sanjeev. I'm obviously a bit disappointed, but at the end of the day, you were getting quicker and quicker, you're getting more confident, and I was asking you to push, you know. You'd got to within about 4 seconds of doing a lap time, of the ultimate lap time. So, you know, when you start getting close to the limit, you've got to start pushing. And I asked you to push, and you did. Just a little bit too much.
A little bit too much. It's all about fine-tuning the little bits that are either going to make your lap or not. So, not the best way to introduce yourself to the mechanics. You know, they spent 3 sleepless nights rushing to fix the car for this weekend. I'm sure they're real happy I came aboard. But you know, we all have a job to do, and as a driver, I had to put my 4.5G crash into the barriers behind me and focus on the task at hand. the first practice session.
I'm very nervous now, but perhaps this is it. This is the beginning. This is the start. I don't know if I'm ready for this emotion, sure. Everyone else is a professional. I'm the progress.
The road to becoming a real race driver is often not paved and full of potholes, as I was soon to find out. Next on So You Think You Can Drive, the practice session gets underway, but not without a bit of drama.
Looks like Sanjeev broke it again.
Trust me when I say that it's much, much harder than it actually looks. But come back next week and you see it gets better. Slightly. Back to the show. Now, while you were jet-setting around the world, everyone else here watched my very first installment of my race weekend with Alex Yoong's racing team. You missed it.
Oh, did I miss a lot? I did hear, though, that you crashed, so apparently I didn't miss everything. I mean...
But in my defense, okay,
Yeah.
Alex was telling me to push, he said to drive. You know what?
Excuses. Yeah, excuse him.
Don't worry about it. It gets much better as we see from this week's installment. Here's So You Think You Can Drive.
Previously, So You Think You Can Drive, my racing career got off to a smashing start after I whacked the cars into the barriers. Now luckily I survived the 4.5G crash and the mechanics were able to fix the car in time for the first practice session.
It didn't help when he crashed the car on our test day earlier on in the week. He went off at turn 6 and had a big high-speed crash, hit the barriers. Damage wasn't too bad, we got the car repaired in time, but you could see it really shook Sanjeev's confidence. And since then it's just been a case of trying to build his confidence back up so that he's comfortable in the car.
First practice session. Didn't kill the car. Got progressively faster with my lap times. And more importantly, there's this important turn 5 that I need to take flat. And that's where I crashed the car earlier, so I've been really scared about that corner. But this time around, last 2 laps, it was flat. So we're on the way. On the way.
I was living it up. TV cameras, interviews with the press. A true glimpse into the world of a race driver. A bit more coaching from Alex, then he was back out on track for practice session number 2.
He's doing okay. Good thing about Sanjeev is he keeps trying, and he's actually learned quite a lot. But it's his last 2 seconds, you know. He's struggling to find that last 2 seconds. Now it looks like Sanjeev broke it again.
So second practice session got cut short just a bit. I was going into turn 1, braked, downshifted into second gear, got on the throttle and no power. It felt like it was cutting off. Same thing happened going into turn 4, braked, down to third gear, got on the throttle, no power. So I only probably got 15 minutes of running out of the 30-minute session. The good thing is we've still got some time before qualifying, so I think the guys are going to look at the car and find out what's wrong with it.
Gotta hand it to the mechanics. They really know their stuff. They ripped out the entire fuel system and put it back again in no time. Problem solved, crisis averted, and it was time for the real test, qualifying.
Just be nervous. Don't mess up or I'll kill you.
A few more comforting reminders on how I should be driving the car, and then it was showtime. The race against the clock. All I was thinking about was trying to pull off a perfect lap. I was so focused on braking at the right moment, with just the right amount of pressure, turning in at the exact place with the right amount of steering, just so that the car would hit the apex perfectly, and then back on the throttle hard to power out of the corner. Turn 1 down, 7 more to go, and all of them had to be perfect. I didn't care if another car went past me. I wasn't racing them, I was racing myself.
So qualifying results are in, and I'm not the last car on the grid. There's at least someone behind me, Alex. I gave it my best. I just felt I just couldn't go any faster.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, of course we'd have loved to have been more competitive as well. But at the end of the day, you actually have only done 4 days of driving in total. So, what you've done today is actually a very good result.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go home and sleep on my plan. I've been here since 7 in the morning. It's almost past 7 at night. What's about these guys going home?
Oh, they'll be here till tomorrow.
You're still watching Engine Block. Now, before the break, we asked you to have a think about how many Formula One race weekends did Alex Yoong compete in? Well, the answer is he competed in 18, but he only started 14 of them, all for the then Minardi team. As you know, Alex is now racing with A1 Team Malaysia and is also the proud owner of the racing team Axel Racing. As you might recall, I joined Alex's team in my quest to become a real racing driver and set about preparing for my first professional race.
If by preparing you mean crashing the car, my goodness, you must have been really prepared then. Wow. Well, anyway, to find out what happened when the red lights went off, here's the last installment of So You Think You Can Drive.
Previously, on So You Think You Can Drive, I set to work rebuilding my confidence after my high-speed crash, and my efforts paid off because during qualifying, I wasn't the last car on the grid.
Welcome to Race Day Sunday. It's 8 a.m. on Sunday morning, 2 hours before my race, so it's kind of like breakfast time for my mechanics and crew. I'm actually out here on the starting grid, checking out the lights, the grid. That's going to be my new lesson of the day, getting off the grid cleanly and neatly. But my biggest worry of the day, as you can probably tell, is the weather.
How does the weather go from this to this overnight? Ah well, a real race driver has to be prepared to race in all conditions, and I braced myself for the worst.
20 minutes before the start of the first race, we've still got dry tires on the car, but it's already drizzling, and the crew have already prepared the wet weather tires in case it rains.
Okay, I'll admit, I was hoping that it would stay dry, but unfortunately for me, it didn't. Before I knew it, the wet weather tires were on the car and I was sitting on the grid waiting for the lights to go off. And when they did, it was my turn to slip, slide and skate around the circuit for 20 laps.
Woohoo! My first race in the wet. It was a bit crazy, a bit wild. I tell you, you really have no vision. And I couldn't even see the apex because I can't see through this side and the glass was misted. And I'm just like, okay, I think I need to turn now. Turn!
So, it wasn't a perfect race. I think I went off 3 times in total, but at least I got to the checkered flag and more importantly,
car's in one piece.
Thank you for bringing it back in one piece.
Ready for race 2 now.
Yeah.
1 down and 1 to go. Because we were a sport race, it was a 6-hour wait till the next race. There was a lot of time to kill, so it was a good time to recharge or just enjoy the circuit atmosphere, taking in the sights and enjoying the entertainment.
The thing about motorsports is you can never take anything for granted. If I told you on my first race weekend I'd be starting from pole, you wouldn't believe me. But I finished 8th in the last race, and with a reverse grid, that means I'm starting on pole. Alex, how does that change the game plan?
I think the game plan is blocked like heck.
Easier said than done. I panicked because I'm sure the sharks could smell blood.
Oh, first pole of the season. I predict him to win. I told him, don't come back if he doesn't win.
Well, at least there were perks to starting on pole. From a very wet first experience, the pressure was on and I was feeling the heat. Once again, when the lights went off, I just hit the accelerator and hoped for the best.
No crashes, no mistakes, no spins. Finish first, you got a first finish. No, I didn't really finish first, but at least I finished.
You know, I did better than I ever could have expected because I ended up on the podium. I was on cloud 9. This was the best weekend ever.
It has been a really eventful weekend and I've learned a lot and I've got a lot more respect for the art of racing now.
Good. I mean, you really were thrown in the deep end. And things worked out really well for you today. The car is not damaged, so that's the most important thing. So well done.
I'm glad I kept the car clean. Like Alex said, no damage. That was a good weekend. Thanks a lot for the opportunity.
No problem. Hope to see you back soon.
Did you hear that? He invited me back. What a bonus! My first weekend as a real race driver included my first wet race, my first pole, and my first podium finish. I had walked the whole 9 yards in the shoes of a race driver. And to answer the question, yes, now I think I can drive.